Hello everyone and welcome to Tech Muse, a project of Bosch Southeast Asia. This series hopes to find relevant insight and information about what's around the corner in terms of mobility in the Southeast Asian region and the technologies that help define it. I am your moderator, Maceda Aguila, editor of Business World Velocity and a columnist of the Philippine Stars Wheel section. Joining us today are Klaus Landhaeusser, Bosch Regional Sales Director for Automotive Original Equipment, and Anuj Jain, Bosch Vice President for Progressive Mobility Players. For your information, Klaus is based in Vietnam, while Anuj is in Singapore. I myself am in the Philippines, so this is a truly regional discussion. First, let us address the elephant in the room. At the outset of our discussion, we have to frame it within the black swan event that is the COVID-19 pandemic. Even as forces of disruption have contributed to a fundamental upheaval in the business, the automotive industry itself, as with most sectors, has been sent reeling by the pandemic. So that's where we start our discussion now. Klaus, has COVID-19 beaten the industry back from what should be an exciting arc of progress? Or are we simply making too much of its effects in the industry?
I strongly believe that it would be a big mistake not going ahead with the development and with the developing these new technologies in order to answer these trends, whether they're coming a bit later or not. We still gonna remain being the technology leader as we have been in the past decades as well. And for sure, we will work very closely together, as I mentioned earlier, with the governments, but also with the car manufacturers in order to figure out which technologies we're going to focus on and which technologies we're going to push more compared to the others.
It's very difficult to predict right now what is going to be the new normal. And if you look at the pace or like the activities that have happened in the last months, there has been a lot of lockdowns in various countries because of COVID. A lot of OEMs shut down their plants, and we had to take actions in accordance with what's happening in the marketplace. So we are still trying to figure out what would be the new normal and align with that. Having said so, we also are noticing that there has been an uptake in demand on individualized mobility, for example, e-bikes. And we have been accelerating our effort in those directions.
Now, what I'd like to go deeper into now are four main mobility challenges that are readily appreciable to someone who hears the following words: congestion, air pollution, land scarcity, and road safety. Now, guys, what do you think is the biggest hurdle as far as the ASEAN region is concerned?
So it's very difficult to really segregate these four topics, and they're interdependent on each other. Okay, so in case there is less congestion, probably you can have a better air quality. You can also probably look at less road accident, but it's also dependent on the land availability and other things. And that's where like some of these things wherein having a efficient mass transportation coupled with the other intermodal transportation means would come into picture, which we already seeing in the ASEAN region. I think so some of the mobility service providers have taken good lead and they're already facilitating that, but we need to see a more collaborative and more synchronized approach on that, wherein the government authorities, the private player, they come together, they're joining forces and implementing it at a much faster pace.
Here's a thought. Do you think it's also a function of population density? I mean, particularly in the highly urbanized areas, is an explosion of population underscoring perhaps the lack of land, or is contributing, of course, to air pollution? I mean, I'm trying to look at something that probably ties all these things together. Is it population probably?
We're definitely seeing migration of people from rural areas to urban areas, and that's bringing more pressure on the urban infrastructure. That's definitely a factor, but together with that, we also see that the planning that needs to go into the transportation to make it convenient and easier for people and goods, it needs to further evolve too. So it's a combination.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Vietnam is a very interesting country when it comes to mobility. What you might know is that we have tons and tons of two-wheelers, motorbikes in particular, and there was a long-lasting lack of public transportation. Whereas at the same time, we see now that GDP is growing on a very fast pace, and the people also, the spending power of middle class is increasing drastically. With that, also the demand on mobility has risen. And on top of that, what I can see is the government has reacted very well to that. So, the Vietnamese government has kickstarted many infrastructure development projects. They're building now MRTs, in Ho Chi Minh City in order to address these topics. What is still a major challenge is pollution here in Vietnam, especially in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, and the government is already also addressing that and is looking forward to how to make the transportation, first of all, more efficient, but secondly also how to bring down these emission levels. And there's also big ideas of maybe changing the scooters towards e-scooters or not allowing combustion engine vehicles into the cities anymore. But then at the same time also having the awareness that the charging infrastructure for going electric might be a major challenge. So what we can see now is that the government is preparing for all this, and we will see, or we can already see, a big growth in the automotive sector and also on the public transport development. And on top of that, also the government is very strongly focusing on connectivity, on smart cities, on smart traffic, on intermodal transportation, traffic systems, and so on. So it's a very interesting country, and it's a pleasure to be here and to be part of this.
Now, Anuj, I know you mentioned earlier about how Singapore, everyone knows that Singapore is kind of advanced it has a more developed economy at the moment compared to its neighbors. What are the sorts of, are there also challenges that are being presented in Singapore? And then can you also talk about what Klaus was talking about in terms of opportunities probably that are unique to that state?
So if you look at Singapore, it's a very limited land mass. There's basically 40 kilometers by 20 kilometers. So there is definitely a bit of land scarcity over here. There's only a limited amount of road infrastructure that you can create here. The population has increased in last decades, and it is expected to increase a little further. So there has to be a very strong backbone of mass transportation, which already exists to some extent, and the government has been trying to even develop it further with some additional cross-island rail lines which are under development. Together with this, we also notice scarcity of drivers, for example, bus drivers and even cab drivers in Singapore. And to overcome that, the Singapore government has been trying to bring in more and more automation. So there have been many pilots which have been started. There's some areas that have been earmarked in Singapore where there are additional research going on for automated vehicle trials.
Now, I know that Bosch is envisioning mobility to have three qualities, okay? Future mobility, or in an ideal world of mobility, it should be accident-free, emission-free, and stress-free. Now, I'd like to talk about these things separately with you guys. Now, first is accident-free. How is the company working to realize this? I mean, I know that you guys are working on automated mobility, vehicle safety systems, driver assistance systems, etc. Can you discuss this more thoroughly and for people to understand what Bosch is doing behind the scenes to ensure that that our vehicles are much safer?
So about what studies show very clearly when it comes to accident-free mobility, that the majority of all accidents is based on human error. So what the industry, in particular Bosch, is trying to do is to eliminate this human error factor, and this can be only solved by automation. So the point is, the more the vehicle reacts on the human errors, the better it is at the end of the day when it comes to accident rates and fatality rates. So what is the key focus of the automotive industry and also for us is apparently how to introduce this autonomous technology and also make it fail safe. It has to be fail safe. Once there is no more driver involved, you have to make sure that whatever happens, if any of the systems will fail, that you will have enough backup systems in order to still make sure that you can fully 100% rely on the vehicle technology in order to bring you from A to B in a safe manner.
We have been focusing on many more things. One of the things which we noticed is for emissions purpose, electrification may bring in big benefits. We have been investing very significantly in electrification of powertrain and fuel cells and battery technologies. Along with this, we also believe in 2030, there'll be still a good amount of internal combustion engine vehicles present, maybe hybrids. So we continuously working on enhancing the efficiencies of the internal combustion engine. We're also focusing on how the fuel technology can evolve and synthetic fuels can replace the fossil fuels to improve the emission or air quality around us. Together with this, Bosch has been very actively looking at some of the challenges which the industry faces. For example, parking. It's a big challenge wherein a lot of driving around in urban centers is just looking for a parking space. So we have initiatives like community-based parking, automated valet parking, where we can, where the machine can take over the function of looking for a parking space or automatically going and parking the car itself and bringing it back when the user needs it. So there are multiple things being worked upon in parallel to bring all these benefits to the users as well as to the overall industry.
When it comes to accident-free driving, you might not be aware, or maybe you are aware of the fact that Bosch was always a forerunner when it comes to making the vehicles more safe. And why I'm saying that is I can give you an example. Bosch was the company who developed and firstly introduced the electronic stability program in 1995 and further developed this technology not only for four-wheelers, but then also saw the need that, for example, two-wheelers needs to be more safe, and they also introduced here ABS, the anti-lock braking system, as well as ESP for two-wheeler vehicles as well. And why I'm saying that is that with that we don't stop. We want to make the car really absolutely foolproof and also fully reliable so that we can eliminate this human error factor.
To the average person, when you say accident-free and you talk about automated mobility, the question is, so are we eventually going to see fully autonomous vehicles in our lifetime? Is that a goal if we want to be accident-free? Does that work together? I mean, do those things work together?
Yes, we will see that. I'm very certain about that. But what we will see is we will see an introduction step by step, and we are talking about several different levels in order to first of all to ensure that the technology is fully reliable. But secondly, what is even more important is that also the people can cope with it. And I can just share with you. Many years back, when I drove the first fully autonomous car on our test ground, I was absolutely not comfortable with that because we are so used to interfere by ourselves, to grab into the steering wheel, to brake and whatsoever. And to just let go and to allow the technology to fully take over also takes a certain period of time until the human being is prepared to also being able to trust this technology and to be willing to rely on it.
Was that experience terrifying for you to just let go of the wheel and let that car drive itself?
Absolutely, because I'm already an old folk, and I've been growing up with automotive technology, and I was also in the past a test driver myself, so I believed until that moment that I know exactly how to react and what is best for me and also my surrounding environment. And then all of a sudden having to let go, and you're driving towards an obstacle, and you're not supposed to interfere anymore, was pretty scary for me. But then I had this experience, then this big aha moment where then the technology took over, and yes, it drove me around the obstacle. I just didn't believe that it would be capable of doing so. So it was a scary, but also an awakening experience.
I want to end up by talking about, or just talking about, automation again, because I really want people to have a better sense of what Bosch is doing in this regard. The question is, how far off are we from full automation? And do you believe it's the ultimate answer that will ensure safety on the road for everyone? Can you start with you, Anuj, on this one?
Cap, it's a difficult one. We're talking about a very complex technology. And there have been significant developments that have happened in the recent years, and there's still significant developments that are happening today. But to forecast how soon we can get it, it's not easy. But we foresee that around 15 to 20% of the vehicle in 2030 may already be automated. So that's our current assumption, on the basis of which we have been working and evolving some of our activities and plans. Whether that's the silver bullet that would take care of the various complexities and challenges we have in the mobility, very difficult to say as of today. We have to see over a period of time, and I'm sure that there would be many other factors that would need to be worked upon, but to enhance safety, to enhance the utilization of the rolling stock that we have, automated driving would definitely be a significant milestone in that direction. And also a significant milestone in terms of reducing congestion and pollution.
Well, yeah, when it comes to automation, you have to understand that it is not only a technological challenge. We have already cars on our test tracks which are driving very well, but we are the automation topic also faces additional challenges which you have to understand. There is a big challenge of mapping. So if you want to go fully automated in a big scale, you need to have very precise maps so that you can fully rely on that the car knows every second where exactly it is. That's one point. The other point is we need 5G everywhere. And then what I mentioned earlier, another challenge is going to be the end consumer acceptance of this kind of technology, and to let go and to allow the technology to take over. And by far the biggest hurdle is still legislations. So the governments need to prepare for a fully automated transportation, meaning, I give you an example what I mean by that. If you look at today, there's a traffic accident, a child runs into a car or is run over by a car. Currently, who gets sued? In case the driver is in fault, the driver can be sued. In case the automated vehicle, there is still the big question on who is in charge if there is an accident, if something happens. And we have seen that also in the past with some big outcries in US with some accidents, where there is always the question. And a lot of people are challenging still this technology without taking into consideration that the human failure factor is by far much higher than a single accident by an automated car. So it will come, as I said earlier, but I'm pretty sure it will take some time, and it will have to come step by step in order to prepare for all this, and especially also to help the governments to fully understand the impact of automation and how they need to adjust their regulations and legislations.
There you have it. I'd like to thank our panelists today again, Mr. Klaus Landhaeusser, Bosch Regional Sales Director for Automotive Original Equipment, and Anuj Jain, Bosch Vice President for Progressive Mobility Players. Of course, our thanks go out to you out there for watching. This has been Maceda Aguila Business World Velocity editor and columnist of the Philippine Star's Wheels. And this has been Tech Muse, a project of Bosch Southeast Asia to give us insights on the future of mobility. Good day and keep safe.